once again for the 199th episode of the Take Action podcast with David Adam Kurz. Thank you guys for tuning in the way that you do week after week. I know that it's episode 199, but it's taken like 4 years to get here because obviously there are weeks that doesn't happen. There are times that we took a hiatus and we disappeared a little bit during certain transitions or things that we've done in our career, but I'm very blessed to have a lot of you folks that consistently watch us, listen to us, pay attention to us. I get messages all the time for the great advice that so many of our guests come on and leave. So thank you guys for tuning in 199 times so far. And today I have a very special guest, Mr. Jason Smith. Jason Smith runs the Showcase Miami team. He's with the Keller Williams office here in Miami, Florida, in Coral Gables. And so Jason and I have known each other for quite some time. We met when I first joined Keller Williams many years ago. It's been a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say it's 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, probably 9 years ago. And so if I just kind of count like the years that I've been at certain brokerages after that. And so I remember specifically, Jason, first of all, thanks for being on the show with me.
Thanks for having me, Dave. It's an honor. I love your content, your podcast. So it's great to be featured as a guest. Thank you.
Awesome, man. So I remember, thank you. And I remember being newer to the industry and instantly started working and developing a team and doing things of that nature. And then I got an office at the KW office and because my production warranted me having a little space, and then I started paying for it and so forth and so on. And I remember that your office was on the other side of the office. I was towards the front, you were in the back side, closer to the pit. And I remember always having these spur of the moment questions for you. The problem was that these spur of the moment questions would come at my prime creative hours, which are in the morning. And I would walk over to your office and there'd be a sign that says, "Do not bother me right now." I don't remember. I don't think those were the exact words, but as long as I've known you and throughout that entire time, you've had a very strong discipline, and that discipline has been cold calling expires and FSBOs and so forth and so on. Tell me a little bit about that and tell me how you grew to have this discipline, because it's great to have some people that they say they're going to do it, and then some people do it sporadically, and some people, they'll commit for a week and they don't. But as long as I've known you, from 1 hour to another hour, you were in do not disturb mode. And all you did was cold call. And I would peek in your office and I would see you burning a hole in the rug, walking back and forth, talking to people. Tell us about that, man.
I think it's the first word that comes is fear that drives me to do that. That if I don't do it, I'm not in the business 3 months from now. That's pretty much what's going on in my head. I became a realtor 2001, and my goal getting into the business was I felt like I had the skills to be a listing agent, which is you talk to enough people and you'll get enough listing contracts signed. At no point did I say I'm entering the business because I want to show people homes and be a buyer's agent. There is no track record to suggest that I would be good at that. But I did have a track record selling office supplies and big 5-gallon Zephyr Hills water for Zephyr Hills. Yeah. that I could knock on enough doors, and I could get enough people to say yes because of all the doors I knocked on, Dave. So for me, that meant, okay, Jason, you're going to be a listing agent. You'll survive or not based on how well you do as a listing agent. So that's why 96% of my deals in 20 years have been sellers sold, because that's my sweet spot. That's what I focus on. If that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. And so I love the comment that you just made, because not a lot of people are humble enough to come on a show and say, I am working on fear, because if I don't do this task, I may not be in business 3 months from now. And oftentimes, many agents are working off what works right now temporarily, and then they might do something for, say, 2-3 months, and then it works. And then they focus so much on the opportunity that has arisen that they fail to continue to do what got them there in the first place. So how do you leverage yourself in that manner? Because understandably, I'm sure that you've gotten a phone call that said, "Sure, Jason, let's talk about selling my house. I'll see you at 10 a.m. on Tuesday." And that's the call time. So how do you leverage this?
I think that's something that we all have to deal with, Dave, because when you get to be a busy agent like yourself and you have a team, you have to have your time blocks for the 20% most valuable items that give you 80% of your revenue, the whole Pareto principle, right? So so the idea is to not interrupt that 20% that gives you 80% of your results. So that means that I hold 8 to 11 sacred for my 20% activities. And then in the afternoon, then I can go on appointments, just like a doctor, just like a lawyer, just like a surgeon. They all have appointments and they have to fill their appointment. I've always got a standing appointment from 8 to 11. So that's why I can't really meet with somebody. Granted, if it's a come list me now, if it's a very high expensive property that I know I can sell, of course, I'm going to probably break that time block to go there and get the contract signed.
But it's rare.
It's rare, very rare, very rare. I mean, maybe once a year type of rare. Or if there's some incredible class that is only being offered, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. that day on Zoom or something, I really want to hear the speaker. So then I would probably break for that. But if that answers your question, just focus on the 20%. And because we're all negotiating, we're not just negotiating deals. All of us are negotiating our time blocks. When an appraiser calls you I got an appraisal, I'd like to do it at 10 a.m. Can I do it? Sorry, I've got an appointment at that time. They don't need to know what my appointment is.
Right.
We're all doing that. Mortgage brokers, buyers agents, listing agents. We're all negotiating our time schedule. So that's not just the deals that we're negotiating.
So I do want to ask that for you or ask that of you. How do you get people? So a lot of agents, they get that phone call that says, sure, I'd like to have the conversation with you. And it's almost like, okay, I'll go right now because, a buyer calls them and says, hey, I'm ready to go see properties in 2 hours. And now they're frantically trying to set appointments. How do you get clients out there to respect your time as a professional? This is something that I coach often. And I tell folks, you have to set the time. It is your business. You are a professional, right? And you can't allow your clients to run your business and ragged during the time that they have you, because it's a short-lived moment. They get you for 30 to 45 days, right? And then you help them win and sell or purchase a home. And then what happened? Your schedule just kind of, bloop, it's gone. So how do you get people to respect your time?
I think, first of all, we have to respect our own time, and we have to have it on paper and have habits that we've created. Number one, if it's not on your schedule, it doesn't exist. I'm sure you've heard that many, many times. So we've had it on our schedule. Number two, as a listing agent, there's less of that because you can plan your day better as a listing agent typically than a buyer agent would, right? So I think I've got the benefit of being a listing agent that I can leverage through other people, through showing assistants that can show up to that showing or to that appraisal or that inspection. I think it's succeeding through others is one thing. And then it's just knowing that, okay, what they're asking me to do isn't my top 20%. What they're asking me to do in this moment, that's an 80% item. And again, reminding myself that for me to get 80% of the results, I need to focus on my top 20% activities, which is role play, lead generate, go on appointments, negotiate. Those are some of them right there.
Jason, I'm loving this conversation because, as a coach and as much time as I spend with some of our clients, and my team even, and I'm sure that you have it with your team too, no matter how much we preach time blocking, calendar usage, respect yourself, respect your time. You said something there that was very, it's profound and it's powerful. Respect yourself, respect your time. And then you'll get other people to respect it too. They'll respect you and they'll respect your time, and I appreciate that conversation. I appreciate that advice because many agents are terrified of losing an opportunity to meet with a client if the client says, I need to see you right now, and they're so scared to miss that opportunity that they will completely ignore their calendar and go run to that appointment instead of saying, hey, you know what? I'm available at 2:00. I can meet you then. Does that work for you?
Mm-hmm.
And I believe wholeheartedly that this fear comes from scarcity. It
Absolutely.
comes, right? The fear comes from scarcity. You don't have enough clients, and that's why you're freaking out.
Absolutely. It's not, I totally agree with you on that one, David. Got to have a full pipeline, which remember I said earlier about fear and prospecting. The fear that drives me to prospect daily is that I never want to be in a position where I have to go here because that's my only client in the hopper. It's my only client in the pipeline. You want to have so many clients, just like any good business, that you have you have a sales pipeline, right? With
Right.
predictable closings coming. It's almost agricultural. You plant the seed, and I heard a great analogy the other day, which I've never heard in 20 years, which was you want to look at the lead generation like a football field that doesn't just have one football. It's got multiple footballs all over the place. And what you're trying to do, each football represents a lead. Maybe you've met with them, maybe you haven't. What you want to do is you want to simultaneously, day in and day out, advance the football down the field, all these footballs, till at one by one, they'll start to go over the goal line. And to me, that was really profound because then it makes you think, okay, I didn't get the appointment on this football, but I did advance a couple yards. They said, call me next week, right? I didn't get the touchdown. I didn't get the closing, but they said, you know what? Meet me next week. And if you have enough footballs that are advancing down the field, that's a good sales pipeline right there. Never heard that in 20 years until last week.
Man, no, that's actually very incredible. And I love this. We talk about pipelines all the time, and we talk about how some people in the pipeline are going to be ready now. Some will be ready in 60. Some will be ready in 90. Some will be ready in 6 months. Some will be ready 9 months. Some will be ready a year from now. Some will be ready 2 years from now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some are not even thinking about buying a house, but that one life-changing activity or thing that happens in their life changes their mindset on the home purchase, right? Because tomorrow, a newlywed husband and wife could end up pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
or tomorrow, someone's parent may have to move in with them, or tomorrow, unfortunately, somebody might end up deciding to get a divorce. And so these things happen. They happen. Life happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why people are transient and move from one home to another throughout their lifetime. And it's crazy because now although the market is what it is, Jason, you're prepared for this market because everyone who has a buyer right now is freaking out because they can't get their buyers into a property. You're a listing agent primarily. You focus on listings. How difficult has the last 18 months been for you, or how successful has it been for you based on the fact that you're 100% listing agent?
Let's see. It was when COVID set in and we weren't visiting anybody and we're taking precautions. That was a challenge, but then learning to do Zoom calls and started to take listings over Zoom. That was great. That really taught me the power of technology. I know you've been embracing technology for years and years and Zoom calls and all that, but that really forced me. I was one of the many people that really had to adjust during that period. And COVID caused me to do that, which even now I've adjusted my business to be more virtual like this. So that was one thing. Yeah. It was harder to get listings. I have less listing inventory than I've had in the past. I actually had 0 listings about 2 months ago for the first time in 20 years. 0 listings, which to me was like, oh, but all of a sudden, boom, 6 listings over the next 2 or 3 weeks. So again, because you always put those balls down the field, advance them a couple of yards at a time, all of a sudden you'll get one here, there, but because you never stop the process, because you protect 8 to 11, your 20% most valuable time.
That's awesome. I want everybody to hear something important that you said. And you said, for the first time in 20 years, I had 0 listings. And I think that the discipline that you have to make your calls and the discipline that you have to focus on the 20% that helps the other 80% win, right? Because you have that discipline, your pipeline is always full. And because your pipeline is always full, at some point or another, a person is making a move, and you're there to pick up that move through consistency, through massive follow-up, and through discipline. And so I hope that this message is really getting across to everybody that's listening right now, because I think it's freaking fantastic. I think you're a phenomenal agent. I think you've been doing this for a long time, and you are You have your secret sauce, which is not a secret sauce, but I'm going to say Jason's secret sauce is not that he cold calls. It's that he's disciplined enough to do it daily. And that's the secret sauce. That right there is the, and I call it the secret sauce, not because it's a secret. Everybody knows consistency is key. I call it a secret because very few will do it. Very few have the tenacity and the discipline to do it. So, man, Jason, thank you for that. So I'm going to give you my three questions. So let's dig into last 20 years. What has been your biggest hiccup in your career?
Biggest hiccup, I would say, was probably where I learned the most was starting my own brokerage from 2012 to 2017. As you know, I had a brokerage called Showcase Miami Realty, and it was a hiccup, yet incredible growth that I got out of that. I learned a lot about my strengths, further learning about my strengths, and I learned a ton about my weaknesses and where I should spend my time, where my 20% most important activities should be. And in that experience, I learned that I wasn't focusing on the 20% that I'm strongest at. I was spending a whole lot of time in the 80% stuff, and I was kind of all over the place. So that was a lesson for me. But the good thing is I feel like I got that out of my system, and I learned a lot about myself in terms of focus. I came back focused as an agent.
So how did you, what made you get out of being an indie, and what would you say the biggest lesson you learned was?
Biggest lesson I learned, Dave, was there's a lot of overhead. I mean, there's a lot of overhead as a brokerage that you don't have as an owner. There's a lot of software that I felt like I had to pay for in order to compete in the marketplace against the bigger companies that are out there. And those weren't necessarily my skill sets to find out which software to embrace, et cetera. I learned, commission splits, that's a factor. And then what is your unique selling proposition? I think that was something you have to, if you're going to have a brokerage that really succeeds, what is it that makes you unique versus other brokerages? And it really has to be a clear-cut differentiation from others. Number one, that was one thing. Any thoughts on that topic?
I'm going to piggyback because right around the same time I was running my own brokerage, right? And I decided to go do I was at Douglas Elliman for a little while, and I tried to create a brokerage that would merge the beauty and luxury logo status of Douglas Elliman with the corporate training that Keller Williams has done so well for so many years. And I created Kurz Real Estate, and I'm 100% with you. So, we were 3 offices and 200 plus agents in 36 months, wow. And overhead is, that's it right there. Overhead is a killer because you go to sleep at night thinking to yourself, how am I going to pay everybody? I hope to God that everybody closes a bunch of deals and we can pay everybody, because and Jason, I don't know if you did the same thing, but when I did it, I completely left sales, 100% dropped real estate sales and focused on the agents in my office. So if my agents were not successful, the company was not successful. And I wanted to do that on purpose because I wanted to build a company through people, right? And not just build a company, but I wanted to build it through people. And we were very successful at it. But you're right, Jason. I think, for me, the biggest lesson that I walked away with is, as great as it was to run an independent brokerage and do the things that we did, right now, and as you're aware, and everybody that knows me, moving to EXP was probably one of the smartest things I ever did, And so, I get to recruit, same thing I did as a broker owner, right? So I get to recruit and make money on the recruits that I bring to the table. I get to do it on a national or international level. And, and I get to still run real estate sales if I want to, teams, and do all that great stuff. And the load of pressure, I remember the day I announced, the load of pressure that just kind of flew off my shoulders, knowing that I was going to be shutting down 3 leases and closing locations and getting rid of phone lines and getting rid of printers and getting rid of light bills and getting rid of cable bills and internet bills and E&O insurance. And I can keep going and going and going, and I'm sure you felt that same kind of relief,
Absolutely. Relief. And I that's why I empathize with brokers and managers of all these different brokerages and offices, having walked in their shoes for 5 years, I do empathize, and I know that the offices have to make money too, especially to compete against other, tech platforms. They're out there, the Zillows of the world, whatever. I mean, the brokerage has to make their money to take that risk. So I definitely walk a mile in their shoes. Okay. Which I think makes me a better employee having done that. If you want to call me that.
Well, definitely not an employee. You're an
independent contractor.
Anywhere you go, you're an asset anywhere you go as an independent contractor.
Yeah.
But yes, I think we empathize with the brokerages that we're with way more now than we did before. So that's exciting. So speaking of exciting, what's the most exciting thing that's ever happened in your career that you could say, dude, this was a pivotal point for me?
I would say doing a cold call, having a housekeeper answer the phone, and she said, okay, yes, maybe you can take a look at this property at such and such. And it ended up being a house on Hibiscus Island that we double dipped. We represented the seller and the buyer, and it was 4.2 million. That's
nice.
It. Yes.
Nice. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. And she was the owner. She was the owner of that property. This person that, judging a book by its cover, you would never have imagined, but that she would live on the water and have this incredible property that they had picked up 20 years ago. But that was really just exploring the possibilities and never judging. You never know where this is going, this next conversation. Just so be with it and don't assume you know exactly what's going on. Just all the way in the moment.
Oh man, I love that. And it was the housekeeper's house.
Yes, she was a housekeeper for another property on Fisher Island, a 1-bedroom right there on the beach. She was the housekeeper. So I was trying to get that expired listing for $600,000, and she kept on over the course of 2 months following up, moving the ball down the field. Finally, after my 6th or 7th call to this housekeeper who said, "Sorry, finally the owner has decided not to sell, Jason, but perhaps we have a property over on Hibiscus, Hibiscus Lane. Maybe you could tell us how much that is worth." And that's when I spoke with her husband. They had bought this property as a foreclosure about 30 years before in the 300,000 range on the water in Hibiscus, right? And they had 2 or 3 properties here, and that ended up being one of the bigger sales of my career. That's
awesome. Well, congratulations on that. How long ago was that?
That was 2012, 2013.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. And definitely it's important not to judge a book by its cover, right? Yeah. You never know. Miami as well as I do. I had a client in Coconut Grove. I just met her over the phone, just conversation. She was coming to buy. And then of course, she says, all right, we're flying down from Greenwich. And, as soon as somebody says we're flying down from Greenwich, Connecticut, you're like, holy smokes, this is going to be a good one. And this person, they ended up buying like a $2.5 million condo on the water there in the Grove. And I remember showing up the way David used to show up, suit, tie, the whole nine, especially, in that market. And she looks at me up and down. She's in cargo shorts, a tank top, and flip-flops. And she looks at me and she goes, "David, if you come here one more time to work with me in a suit, we're going to have a problem."
Interesting.
And she made me take off my tie and open up my shirt a little bit. And she took my tie and threw it in her purse. And I remember thinking to myself, you have to be you no matter what. You got to be your unique you. Now, at the time, I used to wear suits all the time. So I told her, I go, "It's how I work. This is me, But as you grow and as you begin to come into yourself, as an adult, as a human being, as a business person, you start to realize who you are and how you portray yourself to people. And you start to realize you can't make everyone happy. So some folks are going to like you in a t-shirt with a ball cap, and some people are not. And that's okay, because we're not all designed to be able to please every single person in the world, So that's a great story. So now, last but not least, for the folks listening right now, what's the biggest piece of advice that you can give to folks out there that are in business? Maybe real estate, maybe lollipops, right? But either way, what's one grand piece of advice that you give to somebody that will help them have a sustainable career?
One that I'm teaching a new agent on my team right now, which he's gone to private school here in Miami. He's got some incredible connections. His uncle is a banker, all kinds of things, great contacts. And he's doing a great job reaching out to these people and letting them know he's in business. So basically, I would say, yes, for sale by owners and all expireds and all this stuff are great, but really focus on the people that already know you, like you, and trust you, and have it in a CRM, contact management software, that you can call them every 3 months to check in and how's it going, just ask about their world, how their life is going. And the outcome of those just genuine conversations is that you will get business opportunities by doing that. But it has to be systematic, 8 to 11, calling these people every 3 months, reaching out to them, and maybe sending them what's going on real estate wise. What area are you looking at, right? And set up an automatic MLS search. That's what I would say.
That's amazing. I appreciate that. And I think, and listen, that advice goes for anybody listening. You're in mortgages, title, real estate, lollipops, bicycles, motorcycles, cars, right? This is advice that is golden. And I've often said it, there is millions of dollars of profit right inside your cell phone, and I ask folks all the time when I host, events, I go, grab your cell phone, hold it in the air, then I'll point at somebody and I go, what is your phone's value? And they'll say, oh, I paid $1,000 for it. And you'll go through the crowd and you'll get similar answers. Oh, I got mine half off the second one for my wife, or whatever the case is. And then once you get them to understand that value is not what you paid for something, value is what you can get out of the something you paid for. And so when we talk about value, we talk about the opportunity to be able to connect. I'm on Facebook, connect on Facebook, Instagram, or your contact list, and be able to reach out to all these amazing people in the world that absolutely need your product, right? If you sell lollipops for a living, you need to believe that everyone in the world needs to have a lollipop in their mouth right now, and you have to go out there and tell people you're in business. Jason, man, thank you for doing this with me. It's an honor. It's a pleasure. I'm super excited to do this with you.
David, thank you. Appreciate it. It's an honor to be your guest on the show. So thank you very much. And I appreciate what you do for everybody out there, just giving great content and great education. You can see it's your passion. You're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, man. All right, guys, that's it for episode 199. Check us out next week. We're going to have episode 200. We're going to have some cool special guests. We're going to have some folks on the show that I love and respect, people who have mentored me throughout the years. And so stay tuned, because next week's going to be a lot of fun. But this week was phenomenal. So much knowledge, so many bombs dropped on you guys. We've got some great thank yous being put out there. So we got to thank you there. We got to thank you there. Amazing guys. Carlos, what a great story. Don't ever judge. Lots of great information out there, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. Episode 199. See you next week for episode 200. Jason Smith, you're the man, dude. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Dave. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Take care.